Hello everyone, this is Megesh Shenoy, and today we will be learning about how we can extend the Agentforce capabilities with MuleSoft automations. And this is just a safe harbor statement that this video is recorded for non-profit purpose only, and we do not do any kind of promotional activity, and this is only for a learning purpose. We are not representing organization over here. This is about me. My name is Megesh Shenoy. I am a certified Salesforce and a MuleSoft developer. I am also a MuleSoft and a Salesforce forum ambassador and an automation enthusiast. This is an agenda of what we will be covering in this video. We will be first going through the MuleSoft Automation Suite, and this would basically help people to understand the capabilities of MuleSoft platform and what are the different products in this suite. Then we will be learning more about MuleSoft RPA and Anypoint platform. What is Einstein Copilot, which is an agent force agent, and then we will be covering a small demo about how we can use these MuleSoft automation products inside my Einstein Copilot to automate a business use case, right? At the end of the day, products would only make sense when we can make use of it in our business or day-to-day use case. So this is your entire picture about your MuleSoft Automation Suite. If you have a closer look over here, we do have Anypoint Platform. And if people may know, Anypoint Platform was the very first product that was released by MuleSoft, which provides us an ability to connect and integrate multiple systems at scale. And recently, MuleSoft Composer and RPA was also added into the product suite. So MuleSoft Composer, in very simple terms, can connect two different systems to automate a business use case. And this automation can be done without writing a single line of code. While MuleSoft Composer and Anypoint platform work seamlessly with systems that have an API as exposed, with MuleSoft RPA we cannot. So typically, MuleSoft RPA is used to interact with systems that don't have an APIs exposed. For example, systems written in COBOL or SAP or any other systems that don't have an APIs exposed, and we want to uh, interact with the system so that the manual job that was done by another person over there can be replaced by using MuleSoft RPA, and the person can work on other meaningful tasks. So if you see, we do MuleSoft RPA is typically used to work on legacy systems if there is unstructured data or wherever APIs cannot be used. So just to uh, sum it up, MuleSoft Composer and Anypoint platform work seamlessly when or to interact with systems that have APIs exposed. And when we have systems that don't have an APIs exposed, we use MuleSoft RPA. You might be thinking about how legacy systems are relevant in today's era. If you think about it, there are many organizations out there that have been operating from last 30, 40 years, and they have been using a single system, and the single system might be a very major system, and it might take some more time or mostly impossible to migrate it up, right? So organizations tend to use the legacy systems and don't try to phase it out. And MuleSoft RPA is a perfect product for the organizations, as this can interact with your legacy systems seamlessly. And with MuleSoft RPA, we can interact with Composer, and Composer can interact with Anypoint platform, and Anypoint platform can also interact with any of the other products out there, which enables you to automate a business use case end to end. Now, we'll be going a bit deep into MuleSoft RPA. MuleSoft RPA contains RPA Manager, RPA Editor, RPA Builder, and RPA Bot. Each of the components is used in a correct phase. For example, When we have a product, we do have a life cycle around it to make or to use the product in a better way. Starting with evaluation, which is optional, we evaluate whether the process can be automated by MuleSoft RPA or not. In this, we determine whether it will be beneficial to automate it or not. And this would purely depend upon the ROI that the business wants to see by using MuleSoft RPA. Once the business is confirmed that okay, they are all set to they have a better ROI when using MuleSoft RPA, which and this is a complete optional step, we then directly move to design that RPA process. In this, we use RPA Manager and RPA Editor. We can directly design that RPA bot processes in your RPA Manager, or else we can record it by using RPA Editor. Then, once we have designed it, we then move it to the build phase. In the build phase, we will have the actual logic of that RPA bot processes. Once we have successfully built it up, we then move to the test phase where we test the RPA bot processes. And once through vigorous testing, we know that it's all set to deploy to production, we can deploy it to production where we can have dedicated VMs set up for where the RPA bot processes can be executed without any disturbance. And then we can operate it up, means we can manage, monitor and manage the bot processes running in the environment. So this is your traditional life cycle and these are the components. Now the point to note over here is that RPA Manager is available on the cloud, which is you can directly go to your Chrome or your any browser and open RPA Manager. But RPA Editor, Builder, and Bot would only work on your Windows environment. So please be careful about these things. And these are certain use cases of your MuleSoft RPA, which is data extraction and data entry, where we can extract data from PDF, CSV, and any other file formats using optical character recognition and other technologies. Thus, other use case might be payroll processing, where we can automate payroll data entry and validate the information across multiple systems. Processing refunds. Automate the processing of customer refund requests to make them quicker and provide the best experience for customers, as well as customer information updates, where we can update customer information automatically across different systems that do not have an API and that are accessible only through the UI. So these are certain use cases, but not limited to them. There might be many other use cases out there, so you can use MuleSoft RPA for any of it depending upon which product is more suitable. We have MuleSoft Composer. Now MuleSoft Composer comes in two different phases, I would say. One is MuleSoft Composer for Salesforce, where you can download it as and manage package in your Salesforce production instances only, and the second one is having a separate dedicated instance for running the MuleSoft Composer. Now, MuleSoft Composer provides us the ability to connect systems at ease, no code integration, which means you can connect to Google Sheets or you can connect to Gmail without writing a single line of code. And everything you will be doing in MuleSoft Composer will be done through point and click. Now there are also out-of-the-box connectors present in MuleSoft Composer. As of now, there are like 20-30 connectors and more connectors get added. We can also connect to any system, and the main benefit of MuleSoft Composer is admins or business analysts can also develop these integrations to automate the business use case without having any knowledge of code or without writing any line of code to build these integrations. And then we have the major MuleSoft Anypoint platform. Now, MuleSoft Anypoint platform can help the organization to connect systems at ease, develop reusable API assets, leverage the API-led connectivity, design, build, deploy, and secure APIs. Now, when we talk about MuleSoft Anypoint platform, the first thing that comes in our mind is API-led connectivity. Now, with the API-led connectivity, we can create multiple APIs. So traditionally, we were creating these monolithic applications where we can, so in a single application, we used to connect to systems, transform the data, and then provide the output to other systems, right? But using API-led connectivity, we can develop very different assets. So when it came down to making changes to these monolithic applications, a huge cost was being bared by the companies. But using API-led connectivity, you decompose the application into several different APIs. And we have system APIs, which traditionally connects to the databases. So Salesforce can be a data source. Your any third-party e-commerce system, your FedEx or your databases, right? The Postgres databases is all. So these can be your system APIs. Then we have process APIs, just a layer above the system APIs. Now in process APIs, we do data transformations. So we can get data from orders and then we can also get data from SAP on orders, transform it up, right? So we do a major transformation over here. And then we do a very minor or no transformations at our experience APIs. So any other system that wants to read data can actually use the experience APIs over here, and no other external systems would be allowed to connect to system APIs or process APIs. So experience APIs would be acting like an interface or that entry point. Now, if suppose tomorrow I get a request to transform to read the FedEx and the Salesforce data and make some kind of transformation and make it available. So I can directly create an API at the process API level and reuse the FedEx API and the Salesforce API over here, the system APIs that I created previously, and do the transformation. Now you can think with minimal changes I can do such a major kind of change, right? And that too without having any kind of dependency. Now, traditionally, while building these APIs, we design it in our design center where we can write RAML code or open API specification, which defines how our API would operate, what will be the resources or the endpoints it would support, what will be the request, what will be the response. Once we validate it up, right? So we'll be taking validation from the team, and once we know that, okay, this is what the API should do and this is what the API should return to us, we then move to the build phase. Now, in the build phase, we would actually do the implementation. Once we have the main logic ready and everything is implemented, we can deploy it to Cloud Hub through Runtime Manager. Now you can also have a private cloud and a customer hosted Mule runtime where you can deploy that Mule application, but you can also do it on Cloud Hub and Cloud Hub 2.0, which is provided by MuleSoft themselves. So Cloud Hub traditionally works on AWS, so you can deploy it to Cloud Hub. Once you deploy to Cloud Hub, you want it to be secured, right? And how you can secure it, how you can have an API proxy enabled, it is by using Anypoint Manager. So through Anypoint Manager, you can create these policies and impose these policies on your API implementation. So no external system would be able to interact directly with your implementation API. So there will be another API over here which would be exposed to customer, and that API, the proxy API, would then internally interact with your implementation API. So this is all about your MuleSoft Anypoint platform. Now, if you can think over here, this is your entire MuleSoft Automation Suite, where we can connect to systems that don't have an API as exposed, or else we can also connect to systems that have an API as exposed without writing a single line of code. Or else, if you want to do a very major data transformation or connect to multiple systems at scale and handle the bulk data transactions, you can use MuleSoft Anypoint platform. So Composer, Anypoint platform, and MuleSoft RPA would actually helped an organization to build the end-to-end digital transformations. And now we go down into Agentforce Einstein Copilot. Now, Einstein Copilot. Before going deep into Einstein Copilot, now we know that AI is booming and every product out in the market has some kind of AI feature in it. And as we progress towards the future, there is demand for more AI based features out there, right? And this is where Einstein Copilot was also introduced by Salesforce. Einstein Copilot is a type of Agentforce agent that helps Salesforce users with business tasks. Copilot agent interacts or interprets our request, makes a plan to address it, and then execute the next best actions. Every action in Copilot is assigned to a topic, and this topic is basically used to segregate these functionalities. Einstein Copilot respects orgs and user permissions. One thing to note over here is that Copilot does not have the ability to delete any of the records or make modifications to any of the records. It can only read records. If you want to perform any kind of DML operations, then you have to extend data. How? We will be going deep into it as part of our demo. Now, Einstein Copilot is also available for Salesforce Lightning Experience and Salesforce Mobile One application. And these are the components of your Einstein Copilot. Einstein Copilot consists of the Copilot, actions, and the reasoning. Look over here. We have a vehicle record, and this is what our business use case would be on. So currently, we have the Einstein Copilot enabled in our Salesforce org, and we can see that I entered a prompt about how does an does any vehicle named EV3 SUV exist, and Einstein returned me a rebate code, and we can see EV3 BAT 17 is the rebate code. Then I asked Einstein about what is the type of this vehicle, and Einstein said me that this is classified as a vehicle, which is a vehicle object. Again, I asked the same question now. What type of vehicle is this? And Einstein now said me that it's the type of the vehicle is car, right? Now, by using this, you came to know that it's semi-autonomous, right? So the answers, it's a conversational part. So the answers are not predetermined, I would say. So it would be dynamic each time we enter a request. You interact with any LLM models, all the responses will be dynamic. It won't be the same. If I enter something today, I get a response. It won't be necessary that I'll get the same response. I'll get the same response tomorrow. Now, Einstein said me over here that EV3 SUV, which is this, is a car, which Einstein is correct. Now I say that I want to store the rebate value of this vehicle. Now rebate code and rebate value. So basically, whenever a user services his car, he would get certain kind of refund based upon the promotion. So uh, if a car manufacturer is running some kind of campaigns and where they want to discount some servicing of this particular car, so they provide some kind of discounts, and this is what your rebate code is. Now this rebate code is currently present or fetched by our MuleSoft RPA, and it's basically interacting with a website which is used by awesome cars where they don't have an API as exposed. Now, ding ding, did it ring your bell? We are using MuleSoft RPA to actually fetch the rebate value. And once it fetches the rebate value, we actually store this rebate value in this field, rebate amount. Yes, and this is all done without writing a single line of code. So all we did was we just typed in and Einstein did it for you. How? We will be walking through each step of it. We'll be first going through MuleSoft RPA about how we did this automation and what you need to do to set this up. This is the Awesome Car Company website. And if you see, we log in into, so MuleSoft RPA would log in into the awesome car company website, it would click on the rebate link over here where this page would pop up. And now based upon the rebate code, so vehicle, if I type EV3 SUV, currently we see that we have two different codes present. We'll be only fetching one among them, right? As part of the use case. And then I'll pass in the EV3 BAT7 rebate code over here. MuleSoft RPA would find where does this value exist for EV3 SUV, right? And then it would pass the amount. This is my MuleSoft RPA manager. And if you see, this is the bot process which I developed, and currently it is in a production phase. So if you remember quite well, we have five phases. We have evaluation phase, we have design, build, test, and production phase. We have the evaluation, design, build, test, and production phase. In the evaluation phase, we determine whether this business use case can be automated by using MuleSoft RPA or not. This is not a technical check we do, but this is what a financial check we do. Whether a business can get a better ROI by using MuleSoft RPA. If they find that, okay, they have a better ROI by using MuleSoft RPA, they can start building this RPA bot process. You can also watch my other videos where we talk more in depth about MuleSoft RPA. Link is in the description. You can watch them. So talking about the current process, that we came to know that okay, MuleSoft RPA can be used to read these values right from that awesome car company website. Now we then design the RPA bot process once, and this is where we use BPMN model notation or business process model notation to visualize that process once, and we can do it directly in our RPA manager or use that RPA recorder. We now move to the build phase. In the build phase, we actually use that MuleSoft RPA builder to have that entire logic set up, the main logic. And this will be done by using trial and error method. Once we build that entire bot process, we then move to the test phase where we will testing it, and this will be done from your RPA manager. You can trigger the test process which would run that RPA bot in your virtual machine. Once we are all set for the test, after the test phase, we can move to the production phase. Again, each step of this MuleSoft RPA bot will be covered in detail in my other MuleSoft RPA series videos. Now, if you see, I can check that the run results where we can see previous to implementations or execution runs of my MuleSoft RPA where it was successful, right? I can just click on the bot and these are all the bot details, I would say. Now, what we will do is we will go back to the test phase, right? I want to show you how this RPA bot actually runs in our virtual machine. So we will be going back to the build phase, and only in the build phase we can run the RPA bot process in our local machine. We'll go back to the build. So right now, once we are in the build phase, I can now load this RPA bot process in my RPA builder, which is there in my virtual machine, and we can run locally to see that how this RPA bot process runs. This is a virtual machine, and this is that RPA bot process which has that actual implementation. So if you see, if I open it up, these are the activity workflows. We have activity parameters which acts like a variable in your in your RPA bot, right? So this is what I'll run and show it to you. So this is the first bot process that we are executing. It would open the awesome car company website, and now it would search for the login text. It will click on the login text. Again, you can't see the mouse movements, but then it is happening right now. It will type in the username and the password. Click on login. Now it will click on the rebates link, And once it clicks on the rebates link, it would actually copy that entire table and it would search for that code, right? Or the rebate code which we passed. And if it is EV1 BAT1, it would return us the dollar amount that was there at the side of it. And our process execution was successful. This is what we came to know from here. And if you make any changes from here, all you have to do is click on the upload project button, type in any changes that you did, and if you see I have some kind of change that was done, and you can just click on upload and it will upload it up. As of now, I don't want to make any change as the bot is working as expected. So what we will be doing now is we'll be moving back to the production phase. So right now we are back in our RPA manager. What we will do is we will publish the it and we'll move to the test phase. In the test phase, we create these test plans and we execute it. Once we know that, okay, the test case has passed successfully or the test plan has passed successfully, what we can do is we can directly go to the production phase. So if you are purchasing any point um, automation suite, you get RPA, you get any point platform with certain vCode limitation. You get RPA, MuleSoft RPA, and you also get MuleSoft Composer. So once you have all of these products ready and you have created these RPA bot processes, you can just click on the publish button, which would then publish this as an asset to your MuleSoft Anypoint Exchange as a asset. So if you have a closer look over here, this is that MuleSoft RPA asset that was created when we clicked on the publish button. Over here, I can see that we have two endpoints present, V2 and V1. They work exactly the same. The only change difference is the authentication mechanism. This uses just an API key, while this uses OAuth. So if you want to use version 2, then you need to have a MuleSoft Anypoint account where you can create the connected app and have this OAuth flow ready. Or else you can directly go to your RPA manager, click on settings, click on the public API keys, create an API key, and you can directly start using this version 1, right? Now again, it has two methods over here, which is put where, so basically the request body, the process execution object doesn't have to specify all the input requirement. So all this does, we have to just pass that execution ID over here and it would check whether there was execution or not. If not, it will basically have this new execution, or it would trigger the execution of this RPA bot. Then we have the post request where we'll be passing, so this is that endpoint, and then we will be passing that API key over here, and we can see what kind of mechanism, what kind of data it requires, and what will be the output of it. So it would return us an execution ID. Once we get the execution ID, because MuleSoft RPA basically is a kind of asynchronous process, right? So there are mouse and click movements, and then we have keystrokes movement, right? Obviously, it would take time. It won't be synchronous like any other APIs that we have. So we have another API where we do a get request. We pass the execution ID over here. And once we pass the execution ID, we get status label and the data from it, right? So status might contain your enum type where we have now started running, success, error. And this is the result would contain the data that is returned by this MuleSoft RPA bot. These are your endpoints. Again, they work on exactly the same. We have put, post, and get over here. The only change is the authentication mechanism present. So this is all about your MuleSoft RPA. Then we have another API present, which we developed using Anypoint, where we created a RAML spec. We had this implementation ready in your RPA, in your Anypoint Studio, publish it to Exchange, and this is your proxy. Now over here, this is an API console basically, where we now can make an API endpoint to, or we can make a request. So right now what I want to do is I'll go to promotions and I just want to do a get promotion. So there are many methods, but as part of the business use case, we are just making use of the promotions. Now in this, if we note uh, properly, we get features to promotion, and this is the sample response that we get from here, right? We have ID, we have name, vehicle, code, expired, expiration date, and created. So these are two of the assets that is present in our AnyPoint exchange. We will now move into the Salesforce side to know how we can make callouts to these endpoints right from our Salesforce org and then use these APIs in our Einstein Copilot. Now we are in our Salesforce instance. In our Salesforce instance, to make callouts to APIs, the first thing is we need to authenticate, and how we can do it by using name credentials. Now, the recent way or the newest way of creating name credentials is by creating an external credential, then creating a name credentials, and then creating a new permission set just for the running user or whichever user would execute or APIs needs and permission to do it. We'll be creating a new permission set and assigning it to the users. Now over here we see that I have two name credentials present. I did it in two different ways, but we can have a look over here. Now the first name credential that we created is a form MuleSoft RPA, which has that entire URL present and that external credential. In our external credential, what we did was we actually stored that API key in our X. So we add in the header and that API key present. Now, if you remember, I'm making use of the version one where I'll create a API key in or user API key in my RPA manager and just pass it as an header to my to this endpoint, which would then trigger the execution of my MuleSoft RPA process. Now we create name principal over here. So if I go click on edit, see I'm using name principal and we have an permission set already created, which we created manually and assigned it to the user. We can also see the permission set over here. Now this is for my RPA, while this is for my API. So again, as I said, I just for the purpose of demo, I created and to show you how what are the different ways that we can invoke these MuleSoft APIs. Now this is for the API or the promotions endpoint that we will be fetching the promotions data that will be fetching from the promotions endpoint or resource. So this is the main URL, right? And in this URL, I did enable callouts and then we have an external credential over here. Again, in the external credentials, we are just storing that the way we want to access it, right? So currently for this endpoint, we have enabled basic authentication and the parameters of the basic authentication are stored in the name principles over here. And we don't have to add any custom header because we are using basic authentication. So it would directly do it for you. So these are the name credentials and the external credentials that we created for both of our endpoints. Now in the name principal, if I go and click on edit, I can also see the permission set that I had created and assigned it to the current user so that I can make callouts to these endpoints. Now in my Salesforce flow, in order to have the agent invoke the flows, we have to create an auto launch flow. Now with auto launch flow, what we did initially is we'll be fetching all of the active promotions that we have. Once we have active promotions, we would filter it up. Now, this is basically using your external services, right? In external services, if you see, we have get promotions. So whenever we create external services and for external services as well, if I show you external services, so we created external services for to make to hit the endpoint. Now we have already had name credentials present, but we also need to create external services which would provide us that ability to invoke that APIs in our flows. Now in my external services, I can see that in fact, I have three external services, and then uh, let me open the first one, which is Awesome Car Company, and it says that we will be navigated to MuleSoft services. So to create these external services, we actually imported them by using MuleSoft services. So if I go to MuleSoft, in this you see that I have only imported one service. It's because just for the demo purposes and to show how we can import these MuleSoft. So we in our other two flows, we actually use HTTP callout, which created the other APIs or other external services that we saw in the previous page. So in this, what we did was I imported Awesome Car Company MuleSoft API. So we imported this from that AnyPoint Exchange asset that we had. Click on import and we can see all of the lists. So for me, it was 111, and then we clicked on next and we had to set the name credentials to authenticate with that endpoint. And that's all. And then we have to import the resources and in the next page. So can do it even right now as well. Click on 1111, and if you see, I'll go to my, and this will be my RPA bot process, which we did in the other way for the demo, just to show you. Click on next. We already have that API present. We'll type test and click on save and next. And now we see we had different endpoints, right? All I can do is just click on get promotions and click on finish. So this would actually create a fresh MuleSoft external services, I would say, your Salesforce external services for you. So we already have an external service. You can just delete this test service over here. Now we'll be also going through the other external service that we had created for that RPA bots. Again, for fetch RPA bot execution ID and this invoke MuleSoft RPA card, this was actually done from HTTP call out in our Salesforce flows, right? Which created these external services for us. Now again, uh, this is basically done at that very in that very same screen that we have. So if I go to external services and if you see we have fetch rebate value operation, it returns as a response code to access default, right? We will go back to our flows page, and this is the first flow that we created, which is of type auto launch flow. In that auto launch flow, we directly call that external service over here, right? All we have to do is just since the current one is actually saved one, let me click on edit, reload the page. So in this auto launch flow, what we do is we first fetch all of the promotions that is valid for the current car, right? So all we have to do is click on plus icon, click on action. In this, I can just type in, and if you see, I get this action, right? This is already there. I'll just cancel it up because we don't need as of now. So once we click on that action, all we have to do is just make a call out because we are just fetching promotions, right? We are not passing any data to this API. Once we get the promotional data all, we then check that whether a promotion exists for the vehicle, right? Which will be and this vehicle record or the name will be passed from my Agentforce agent. And I will also check whether the promotion is expired or not. So once we filter out, so we'll get a list of objects in our response. We'll filter it out based upon the vehicle name and false, which means expired is false, which means the promotions are still active. Once we have it, we will loop it up and we will store only one rebate code value over here. So you can just ignore this up. So rebate code value over here, and that's all. And it would actually return us. Let me reload the page. Yeah, and now it would actually return us a rebate code in response, right? Because we are not storing rebate code over here. For the demo purposes, just wanted to show this to you. So we will be also returning it And this, you see, we have also added a description over here. This output indicates the rebate code for the given vehicle name. And I'll just tell you in next few seconds about why it's important to have description present in your variables, in your flows as well. So I set available for output over here. And now I will go to my other processes that we have. I'll click on flow, and we have another process where we uh, actually trigger RPA bot. Now, in this flow, again, what we do is we get the rebate code, which will be passed from my Agentforce agent. We will then pass the rebate code. We'll store it in a JSON string that we create using when we create these external services. We have some kind of Apex defined data types that is created in my backend. We store the rebate code and we send the rebate code to this RPA bot process. Now, once we send this rebate code to RPA bot process, if you remember, the RPA bot would initially return us that execution ID. And once we get the execution ID, we will store it in that execution ID variable, and we will send it back to my Agentforce agent. Now, in my other uh, flow that I have created, what we do is we'll fetch the current status. Check execution status. Okay. Now in this, what we do is we pass in the execution status. We will make a call out again to my RPA bot endpoint FEC. I'm passing the execution ID, and remember this is your HTTP call out that we made over here. And now then we store the status and the rebate value in two of the variables, right? And both of the variables are marked as available for output, and this will be returned to your Agentforce agent. Now we have all the three flows ready for us. The first flow would fetch all the promotions, right, and return as an active promotion which is not expired for the current vehicle. The second flow would basically trigger that RPA bot process over here, and it would then we would then fetch the rebate code from that RPA bot process. And the third one is we'll recheck whether the RPA execution has finished or not, and we'll get that rebate code as a response from that RPA bot process. Now what we'll do is we will again go back to my page, and now how can I invoke all of these from my agent, right, for my Einstein? And the way you can do it is you have to first go and click on agent and enable the Einstein Copilot for Salesforce agent. Now you have to create a new fresh org, a developer or a trial org for this, or else you can contact your account executive to enable it for your in your org. Once you enable it, right, the second step you have to do is you have to click on agent actions, click on new action. In the new action, if you remember, I said that we can create custom actions, right? So we are creating custom actions. We know that the standard actions are not capable of making any callouts, right? And only a custom action can make a call out to these MuleSoft APIs through your flows. So I'll click on flows, you click on next. Yeah. So we have a reference action. We have these many auto launch flows that are activated and ready. We can click on any one. So I want to check fetch active promotions, agent action label, click on next. Now, this is where your description plays a very important role. Your description provides the descriptions in your flows provides us the ability to let agent force agent know when to actually make use of these actions, right? So if you make any mistake over here, your even though your custom action or logic that you have successfully tested and you know that it's working as expected, but why it is not working in my agent force agent, it's because the agent action instructions is not sufficient, right? So your agent is not able to understand. So if you remember the components of your Einstein Agentforce, your Copilot, Einstein Copilot, it had that Copilot. First we had the Copilot, then we had that action, and we had the reasoning engine, right? The reasoning engine is also called a planner service, but then what it does, it identifies which actions to be executed based upon the user's prompt. Then it initiates the conversation. Then the user shall initiate the conversation with Einstein. Reasoning engine interprets the user's request and determines their intent. Dynamically, it builds a plan to accomplish the user goals, executes the right action to carry the code. So this is where your description plays an important role to let the reasoning engine know when to execute these agent actions. Now I have properly defined that populate this input variable with vehicle name. This output indicates the rebate code for the given vehicle. I have already created these actions and I can just walk you through. So this is the first one I created, which is check execution status, right? Where if you remember, when we trigger our RPA bot process from my Salesforce auto launch flows, it would return as an execution ID. And this is where I pass the execution ID to understand whether that RPA bot process has finished execution or not. Will have that agent action instructions, return the rebate value based upon execution ID, or store data in execution status variable if the execution status is not success. I have let agent force agent know that okay, I have to pass execution ID to this uh, auto launch flow, and then in return it would provide us execution status to let agent know that okay, the execution, where exactly is the execution, right? Successful, error, or what is the response. Then we also get the rebate code if the response is successful, and just check this output indicates the rebate value. This everything is compulsory to let agent force know when to exactly execute this action. We also have for fetch active promotions, right? We have perform this action only when prompted by the user and return the rebate code. So we have very well defined when to execute this action and what this action does, what kind of vehicle, what kind of data I have to pass to this custom action or your auto launch flows, right? Added that instruction over here as well. This is your variable instructions that you have. This lets agent force know what kind of data I have to pass to this custom action and what kind of response I will be getting from this custom action, right? And the last, I would say, your trigger RPA bot process. So if you see, this is the trigger RPA bot process that we have. We also have an agent action instruction and then your instruction for your variables over here as well. Again, this is very important whenever you create these agents, right? Custom actions, because this would let that agent know when to exactly run these actions when a user actually asks something to these agents. And now if I go and I'll just refresh the page and I will go through the final demo about how this would exactly work. So right now, just for the demo, I wanted to show that, okay, this is the vehicle record that I have, and I will ask agent dot, hi, can, can you please check whether any vehicle of name QV exists. Okay, now this is where I have set in. It is now that reasoning engine is now figuring out what kind of actions that it needs to perform, right, based upon my request. And it automatically identified, okay, there is a vehicle that exists, and it also gave me a rebate code, right? How was this possible? By giving a very well defined agent instructions when adding these custom actions. Yeah, there is one more part over here. We'll go to actions when we create these agent force actions, right? The other part is that you also want these agents to and to run these custom actions, right? And how you can do it, you need to go to your agent and then click on the topic over here. Click on, you go to your this topic actions and manually add that custom actions that you had created. You have first have to deactivate, add the custom actions that you created, and then again activate. And this is how you would enable the agents to execute these custom actions. Now, what I'll say that, okay, please store the rebate value based on the rebate code in the same vehicle. Click on enter. Now it's again understanding the user intent, and the reasoning engine is figuring out what steps it needs to be performed, right? So right now it understood that, okay, so it needs to fetch the rebate code, and how it can be done, it's by executing that RPA bot process. Now we can have another way. We can't go to VM and check again and again, right? There is another way to check that RPA bot process. It's by going to your process monitoring, process streaming. Now in your process streaming, you have to click on that instance that is running, right? Now if you see this instance is currently running, I'll click on the monitor icon, click on, and can exactly see the image. It would take certain time to load, but you can exactly see the image that or the action that is performed by my RPA bot in the virtual machine. So you see, it's going to the rebates, clicking on the rebates link. It logged in into that website, clicked on the rebates link. It's so it's not it just sends the images, right? So it clicked on the rebates, clicked on control A. Now it will find where the code exists, and it would return me that dollar or the rebate value that was there. So I know that, okay, the execution was successful, right? Now I'll again go back to my Copilot. In my Copilot, what I'll do is uh, these what is the execution status. I'll type in. So it would then trigger the other auto launch flow that we had created, pass in the execution ID, and it says that it was success, and it returned me a $1,000, that the rebate value that was there, right? Now, if it worked perfectly fine, it should store the value. So it did not store the value. All we have to do is just go here and say store the rebate value in the vehicle record. See, now this value is being stored. So if we go and refresh this page, it should store the value. We have that rebate amount value stored over here. Now, all of this was possible by using custom actions, MuleSoft, right? And this is how you can create your agent force actions and custom actions and extend the capabilities by using MuleSoft to have this end-to-end process ready for you. This is all for the today's topic. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, please subscribe to my channel and leave some good comments. It would definitely motivate me to do much better in my next upcoming videos. And if you want to learn more about MuleSoft RPA Composer, you can watch to my other videos that are there on my channel and can ask any questions at any point to me. Thank you and see you.